Hello and welcome to Talk Truth. My name is Corey Huntsberger. I have my father, Alan Huntsberger, in the studio. We're going to start off with our foundational verse because we love it. The earth and everything in it, the world and its inhabitants belong to the Lord. For he laid its foundation on the seas and established it on the river. Psalm 24, 1 and 2. He's the creator of it all. He's the one we serve, right, Dad?
He is. And, the interesting thing is, a lot of times we talk about being in Christ, which is obviously his son who died on the cross and for our sins and rose again on the third day. And that has to do with what we call salvation. And I just wanted to share this because I think it's important. The earth and everything in it, the world and its inhabitants belong to the Lord. And, he gave us a choice of to do evil or to do good. And we talked about that before. And the people that do evil versus the people that do good, there's a destiny awaiting them. And those of us that are wanting to do what God wants us to do, it's called salvation. And salvation is not just a one-time moment, nor merely a future hope. It's a living reality. And you are already being saved day by day, moment by moment, as the Spirit sanctifies you and renews you and leads you deeper into the likeness of Christ. And that's the exciting thing about realizing that we're in God's world. It's not just politics. It's not just medical things. It's not just this or that or the other thing. He's preparing us for a day where he and us are going to live together for eternity. And that's going to be something glorious. And we need to keep our eye on that goal for the rest of our lives.
Well, someone who keeps their eye on that goal is our guest, Mr. Shawn Buckley. Shawn, welcome back to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me back. I really enjoy being on your show.
Shawn, we love having you, and we just went through a couple weeks ago the incredible testimony of Del Bigtree. Amazing. He did such a great job because I believe he's a journalist and not a scientist, so he broke it down in easy terms for a lot of people to understand. We're listening to a new guest. I'm going to go ahead and let you tee him up.
Yeah, so this is Dr. William Makis, who is an oncologist, so a cancer doctor. And just so your audience appreciates, even just to get there, you have to do 5 years of training after you've become a medical doctor, because it's so important that you understand how to both identify cancer properly, see the patterns, and treat it. But he wasn't just an ordinary oncologist. He's kind of like a high-end person. He was running the Cross Cancer Institute in Alberta and was a pioneer in using medical isotopes to treat cancer. So when you're listening to Dr. Makis' testimony here, understand he is one of the world's top oncologists.
All right, let's watch part one.
This is the COVID-19 vaccine schedule in the province of Alberta. This is the Alberta immunization policy of the government of Alberta. The COVID-19 vaccine schedule, as you will notice, has recommendations for children as young as 6 months old. For healthy children, they are recommended to get anywhere from 2 to 3 COVID-19 vaccines. And if the child is unimmunized with COVID-19 vaccines, they are recommended to get 2 vaccines. If they've received 1 or more doses of COVID-19 vaccines previously, they are recommended to get at least 1 of the new COVID-19 vaccines. These recommendations are, you will see, as soon as you can. That is for a healthy child. Now, this is the recommendation every single time that a new COVID vaccine variety comes out. And so every time a new variant vaccine comes out, this is the recommendation of the Alberta government. For children who are immunocompromised, you will see that the recommendations increase the number of vaccines required of the child. An unimmunized, immunocompromised child is recommended to get 3 COVID-19 vaccines. This is a child as young as 6 months old. Recommended to get 3 vaccines as soon as possible. If the child has received 3 or more doses, they are still pushed by the Alberta government to get an additional COVID-19 vaccine dose. This is the policy of the Alberta government as it stands currently. According to the Government of Canada, at least 3 million children in Canada have had at least one COVID-19 vaccine. That's over 3 million children. When we look at the age category 0 to 4, that's 136,000 children have had at least one COVID vaccine. Children ages 5 to 11, over 1 million children have had at least one COVID vaccine. Children 12 to 17 years old, over 1.7 million children. We don't know how many children ages 18 and 19 because they group them with young adults. So over 3 million Canadian children have had at least one COVID-19 vaccine. The Government of Canada has an adverse event reporting system, and they have documented several thousand adverse events in children ages 0 to 19. However, the Government of Canada tells us that there are no new safety signals that have been identified in Canada with COVID-19 vaccines. When you look at...
Dr. Makis, can
Yes.
I just slow you down, because you're presenting these Health Canada figures as if they actually reflect the number of reports that, are out there. Can you speak a little bit about whether or not there's over-reporting or under-reporting by Health Canada?
Absolutely.
It's just, I think we should put those numbers in context, because this inquiry has heard evidence from witnesses who have tried to file reports and failed, and also from, professionals such as yourself about trying to file reports and failing. And so if you can comment on that.
These numbers from the Government of Canada are grossly underreported because doctors are actively discouraged from filing vaccine adverse events. And I will go into more detail of that as my presentation proceeds. And so you will see there are several thousand adverse events reported, but this is a gross underestimation of the total number of events. And I will show you in a larger database that is kept by the World Health Organization. This is VG Access. There are actually 151,000 adverse events reported in children 12 to 17 years old, and about 48,000 adverse event reports in children 2 to 11 years old. And so VG Access, which is a larger database, has over 200,000 adverse events reported for children of various ages. Now, when we look at deaths reported to the Canadian government after COVID-19 vaccination, the government tells us that there are 488 deaths that have been reported following COVID-19 vaccination. However, as of today, there have been 0 deaths attributed to the COVID-19 mRNA vaccines in Canada. 0. You will see at the bottom, the government admits that there are 4 deaths that are consistent with causal association to immunization. These deaths have been attributed to the AstraZeneca vaccine, which is no longer on the market. And so what happened to these 488 deaths that have been reported to Health Canada? Well, they've been dismissed by the Canadian government in various ways. And these are the ways in which these deaths are dismissed, for example. 168 reports of deaths unclassifiable due to lack of available information. 109 reports of deaths inconsistent with causal association to the vaccine, unlikely to be linked to the vaccine. I can tell you that none of these cases have been properly investigated with the standard of care, which would be a pathological examination with proper staining, immunohistochemical staining done for the spike protein of the vaccine for tissues that have been affected in the case, whether they be tissues of the heart or the brain or other organs. This kind of pathological testing is not done in Canada.
Dr. Makis, can I also ask, we've heard some other evidence previously that even things aren't classed according to the kind of accepted classification method as a vaccine injury unless 14 days past the shot has gone. Like, is that the case in these reports to Health Canada, that might also be part of it?
That may well be the case, that you are considered unvaccinated, for the first 14 days after receiving the vaccine. And so that is an additional complication. But I really want to stress that These deaths have been dismissed by the Canadian government without being properly investigated with the standard of care in pathology, which would be immunohistochemical staining for the spike protein to see if it is present in the tissues or not. Then there are additional 77 reports of death, again, indeterminate. It is important to see the language that the government uses to dismiss these reports of death. Insufficient definitive evidence or conflicting evidence of causality. And so we come to the conclusion from the Government of Canada that there have been 0 deaths attributable to the COVID-19 mRNA vaccines and 4 deaths to the AstraZeneca vaccine. However, when we look at a smaller country than Canada, which is similarly vaccinated for COVID-19, Australia, by January of 2023, there were 9 child deaths reported to their regulatory body, the TGA. And so there's a very significant inconsistency here in the adverse event reporting system. Either Australia got a really bad batch of vaccines that are killing their children, or someone is lying about adverse events and deaths. And it is my position that the adverse event reporting system in Canada is broken. You cannot have 9 child deaths attributed to the same product in a smaller country like Australia and have 0 deaths attributed to the same product in a much larger country like Canada. And so when we look at the vaccine adverse reporting system in the United States, there are at least 538 child deaths that have been entered into the VAERS system following the vaccination with Pfizer or Moderna COVID-19 vaccines. And the youngest death reported after a Pfizer vaccination is a 5-month-old baby that received a Pfizer vaccine and died 2 weeks later. The youngest death in the VAERS reporting system after a Moderna vaccine is a 1-year-old child, a boy in Florida, who received the Moderna vaccine and had elevated body temperature. 2 days later, seizure followed by death. Now, there's a very interesting situation when you look into the VAERS reporting system regarding child deaths. There are at least 182 child deaths in the VAERS system that do not have the age properly filled out in the age category. And this is a very strange situation that was discovered by a VAERS analyst called Albert Benavides. He made this public last year, and I went over every single one of these 182 child deaths to confirm that indeed these are child deaths in the US VAERS reporting system, and they are not properly filled out. And what do I mean by that? Look at the age category. The age category is left blank. Now, the rest of the VAERS report is filled out. You get the Pfizer or the vaccine, the number of doses, you get a whole write-up about it. But if a member of the public or a doctor was to search the VAERS system, they would not find these cases. These cases would not come up in the search. And this is how 182 child deaths have been hidden in the US VAERS reporting system. I want to read you what these deaths look like in the write-up. The first case on the left is a 15-year-old boy that had 2 Pfizer vaccines. The boy suffered chest pains shortly after returning home from a vaccination center where he received his 2nd shot on November 24th and was rushed to the hospital. Doctors allowed him to go home after checking on his condition, but his condition worsened the following day. He was sent to the hospital again, and he died on November 25th. And so he died a day after his 2nd shot, and he was feeling sick right after coming back from the vaccination center. This is hidden in the VAERS reporting system. You would not find it by searching for it. In the case on the right, you will see again, a young boy, a 12-year-old boy. After the administration of the vaccine, patient went home. After having dinner, he started suffering from dizziness, abdominal pain, defecation. His family took him to a local hospital. He was transferred to another hospital. And then the following information is reported: dizziness and death, medically significant outcome, fatal. This is a boy who died, again, shortly after getting his first Pfizer vaccine. We have now 3 publications documenting the deaths of children after taking mRNA vaccines with autopsy confirmation, with pathologic confirmation. These have been published in the United States. They have been published in Japan and in Brazil. And the media does not cover these, of course, in Canada, but certain countries are much more open to covering child deaths after COVID vaccination. For example, in Vietnam, when the COVID vaccine program was rolled out in children, the local media were reporting that children were dying after taking the Pfizer vaccine. In fact, they were numbering the children that were dying. We have fourth child dies after Pfizer vaccine, 5th student dies after Pfizer vaccine, and so on. The program had to be temporarily suspended. There are governments around the world who are compensating families of children who have suffered injuries or have died after COVID-19 vaccination. So, for example, the Taiwanese government has compensated a family for $114,000 of a girl between 5 and 11 years old who died of sudden myocarditis 3 days after getting his second dose of Pfizer vaccine. The Singapore government has compensated a family $225,000 of a 16-year-old boy who suffered a cardiac arrest after his first dose of COVID-19 vaccine. Fortunately, this boy survived. Unfortunately, this is not happening in Canada. And I'd like to bring up the case of 17-year-old Shawn Hartman, a young boy hockey player who died 33 days after his first Pfizer vaccine. His father, Dan Hartman, applied to the Canadian government's Vaccine Injury Support Program and was denied any compensation. I'd like to thank Dan Hartman because he has not only been fighting for his son, but he's been fighting for all Canadian children. I can tell you that he has fought harder for Canadian children than any Canadian doctor currently licensed with an active medical license.
Wow, that's incredible testimony, Shawn. I'm going to go ahead and let you go first.
Well, you know, I like the last thing he said is, I mean, so Dan Hartman is acting more than any doctor currently licensed, because the doctors that stood up all lost their medical licenses to practice. And, you know, that court case was dismissed, you know, not because the court's saying that Shawn Hartman wasn't killed by the vaccine. Rather, the court was saying that the government of Canada, Health Canada, doesn't owe a duty to individual Canadians. Their duty is to the public interest at large. And, you know, if you can do things that are dangerous and not be liable to the individual, we're entering a pretty dangerous place. And the rest of his evidence is truly shocking. I don't know what you guys think about when he's talking about 488 deaths reported to Health Canada, and this is actually, you know, not, well, these wouldn't be today's figures, and not a single one being investigated. That's interesting.
Alan, your thoughts?
You know, this, every time we come up with this subject, I just get so upset because, you know, there's no question that we hear over and over and over again, somebody got a shot and within a day or two died. And in any other time of history in life, if that would have happened to a new vaccine, they would have stopped the vaccines immediately. And we have had even doctors do studies and say that one of the things that we request of, like, for example, Alberta, is to stop giving vaccines to children, especially healthy children. But what are we doing? We're still doing it. So it's like either we have got people in our leadership in our country that have nothing between their ears, or they're completely plugged and their eyes cannot see the damage that's going on in our country. It gets me so upset. I don't know, Corey.
Shawn, let me ask you.
This is not a good show. It just drives me nuts.
Well, okay, I'm going to say it is a good show, and everyone should continue watching Talk Truth. And we're grateful for everyone who gives towards this show, so we can continue to broadcast. So we can continue to broadcast this truth on the air. Now, sometimes the truth is heavy, but we don't get to see these stats or these numbers in mainstream media. We're not hearing it from the politicians. No one in the medical field is going to admit this and say they're sorry. And so the only thing that we could do is continue to broadcast the truth, continue to broadcast the testimony of these experts, and hopefully it starts to plant a seed and grow some roots so that people can begin to see the damage that it causes, the trust that you have in your government, in your doctors, and everyone, that tells you it's safe and effective. We know that that's not true. Shawn, why do you think this charade continues, especially when you personally have sat through hundreds and hundreds of hours of testimony, and yet it feels like you're speaking to a wall and your words are bouncing back at you and no one's hearing you? Why do you think this continues?
Well, so first of all, I think it's important to understand, that the earth and all that's in it belongs to the Lord. So he's in control.
Yes.
And he is moving in ways that we have not seen before. We are fully in a spiritual war, and that involves deception. That's the enemy's main weapon. The evil thrives through deception, but we're not powerless. So I think as long as the people viewing understand, start praying. You start praying that you will see the truth, and that those in your household will see the truth, and that, basically the lies will be dispelled. Like, that's, first of all, very powerful. And then stop being afraid and stop participating in lies. So if there's a conversation going on that you just know don't participate, and even just politely say, I don't agree with this and I'm not going to participate. But let's stop acquiescing. Let's stop standing by. It just came to mind, one of the testimonies in 2023 at the NCI is this, lady gets taken down by security in Walmart. And if I recall, correctly, she was disabled and she just wouldn't wear a mask. And everyone just stands there. There's all these healthy men there and no one intervenes while this, disabled lady is basically tackled and taken to the ground violently and viciously by security guards over really nothing, right? So how is it that we're standing by and doing anything? It is, I think, we've forgotten that we actually have the responsibility to stand for truth, right? So your show is Talk Truth. You're talking it, you're bringing it out, and at great cost. Everyone else needs to be doing that within their circle. But start with praying.
Agreed. Right, Dad? And we're not just saying pray just to have a catchphrase. I mean, prayer works.
Yeah, but prayer, faith without works is dead, right? So you have to get up and you have to do something. And I mean, we buy the argument, well, we're not going to discuss this in our Bible studies, or we're not going to preach this from our pulpits, or we're not going to say this, openly or whatever, and this is just ridiculous. It's unbelievably ridiculous, because we're talking eternity, and we're talking about children, and we're talking about kids that don't have a chance in life because the adults have gone brain dead. I mean, it's unbelievable, and it disgusts me to no end. I love everybody, I really do, because God does, and he loves us. But I mean, evil I cannot handle. I mean, evil is just so humanizing. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and it doesn't sleep. And you're raising a good point, is, because this is about the kids. And, how can we be basically allowing kids to be vaccinated with these COVID-19 shots when, I'm sorry, I don't care, what you think about the government narrative in that. If you look into it, there's just no risk, but there's such safety signals and alarm bells going off that it's absolutely reckless. I mean, in my personal opinion, I believe we're literally deliberately murdering children with this vaccination schedule. And I mean, it's not just get 2 shots, as Dr. Makis says in this clip. I mean, every time there's a new variant, they're expecting each child to get 2 new shots. Like, this is just absurd. And we have an obligation to protect our children. We can't sit still.
Yeah, agreed. Well, he's got more testimony coming up tomorrow. He goes into a lot of detail. He kind of really pieces together the whole story of what's happening with the children, and he uses quite detailed and thorough stories. Shawn, we're going to watch it tomorrow.
It's disturbing.
It is. Thank you so much for being on the show. We're definitely going to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
Well, Dad, let's quickly give away our book, because it's the only reason that you and I stay strong is you got to have that strong relationship with Christ. It's called The Living Stone, A Journey of Transformation. It's yours absolutely free. You can go to our website, gotalktruth.com, click on resources. You got to get this book. You got to do the reflection questions. Do it with a group of friends if you want to, but you really have to start building a strong, firm foundation on Christ. Right, Dad?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, he is the answer. And, we will have victory. We will see victory. But the suffering that people have to go through is unbelievable.
Yeah, we're seeing more now. We're seeing victories happen every single day. It just doesn't feel fast enough for me. You know what I'm saying? Right. I'm like, come, Lord Jesus, come, hurry. If you'd like to help support our show, we are only able to do it because of you. And it's because of your generosity we can continue to broadcast the truth. You can go to our website, gotalktruth.com, click on the donate button. You can give digitally that way. Many different ways you can give digitally. If you like to do it through the mail, you can. You can make your check payable to Heritage Christian Ministries Association and send it to 246 Stewart Green, Southwest, Suite 3260, Calgary, Alberta, T3H3C8. And I want to say we are so grateful for everyone who does participate with us and partner with us and help keep this truth on the air. If you'd like prayer, we have a toll-free number, 1-800-915-0056. All right, Dad, we're out of time. We'll see you guys later.
Love you.